Hello, dear.
Welcome to Hello, Dear. Thanks for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks for watching. I have Anthony DeVito here.
Thank you guys for watching.
What's up, Anthony?
What's up, dude?
Nice to see you, man.
Yeah, man, it's great to see you.
Yeah.
Do you live around here or no?
No, I live in Bed-Stuy. This is a long,
So this is a real trek.
Well, it is, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
It is worth it. Worth every transfer of the subway. This is a joke I've tried to do before that's so local it would never work, but that the taking the train from Brooklyn to Queens is like watching a white person dance. It's just full of jerky, weird movements. And does that make sense? It's like the G to the 7 to the Q. It just like makes no fucking sense at all.
There's just black people on the side being like, what are you doing? What are you guys doing?
Exactly, yeah.
It's just like every black person in Brooklyn is just like, what the fuck
I would
you guys
never
doing?
There's black people in Queens, though.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah.
I said that with resignation. As if I'm upset about it. I'm just tired. I'm very happy they're here. Whenever they arrive, I meet them first.
Yeah, you welcome them. At the port.
I welcome them right at the port. It's unsettling for them, but it's something I'm powering through despite how they feel about it.
That's nice. What an ally.
This is the work.
Yeah. Anthony, I became aware of you a long time ago. I think before I moved to New York. Just you're very funny stand-up, obviously.
Thanks,
and me and my friend Charles, we talked about this. You have like this Live at Gotham TV set where I think if I remember correctly, at one point a joke you tell kills so hard that two people in the audience high-five each other.
It was.
Do you remember this?
I do, man.
Yeah.
It was.
It's just we were just like, that's so. What a cool moment for everybody involved.
It was unfortunately set the bar so high for every other like television thing that I did. That crowd was so electric.
Yeah.
In a way that I don't think I've ever experienced again.
Oh wow.
I don't think I've ever even done a show that wasn't on TV where two people high-fived during a joke.
Do you remember what joke it was? That
I don't remember the joke. I just remember that it was like it was so much it felt sarcastic in terms of like crowd response. And then I remember that from there being like, oh, I guess like TV sets are all like this.
Yeah.
And then everyone that I've done since then, I've bombed horrifically.
Is that true?
No.
Okay.
I was trying to be modest.
No, I don't think
they've all been, they've all been fine. But
have you ever bombed during a TV set?
Yeah, my Comedy Central Presents I was bombing.
Oh, wow.
And I did a thing, I think I did it on Don't Tell too. It's probably just like a bad habit that I have. Where the audience, they were just a little stilted in their laughter.
Yeah.
And I could kind of sense them not being, they could be better.
Yeah.
So I think in that moment, I was just like, all right, guys, like I know it's a TV taping and whatever. They'll edit this out. Don't worry about it. But what's happening? And I was like, this is how you guys are. And it just sort of jogged them out a little bit. It bought me a little bit of time.
Oh,
and
that's
then they
good.
returned right back into themselves. But it got me a couple minutes where they were like...
Oh, so you did turn it around.
For a few minutes,
Yeah.
And then they kind of reverted back to whatever nature that they have.
Yeah, interesting.
But no, I don't think I've ever... there's a JFL Kevin Hart taping that I bombed very badly, where I was aware of.
Yeah.
I don't even think they ever aired it.
Yeah.
I think it was one of those sets where it's like you would need the Kevin Hart app.
Sure.
There was like a time where...
Dude, I know, I had a random TV, well, not TV set, app set, where I lived in LA years ago, and Tyler, the Creator, had an app called the Golfwang app, because I guess there's some like Wolfgang or so. There's some like his production company maybe is named Wolfgang, and they flipped it to Golfwang, and that was the app. And they did a taping for that, and it was Jamar Neighbors, Eric Griffin, Marcelo Arguello, and then me, which
all high octane performers.
I'm very out of place, and I bombed in front of Tyler, the Creator.
Man.
Yeah, for an app.
Yeah, it's such a humbling feeling. I bombed for a celebrity I like for his app.
Yeah.
What a crazy sentence. Did you get to talk to him at all afterwards?
No.
He was not really...
Well, he was who did well.
Really?
He was fine. He wasn't like... wasn't like mean, but I didn't like interact with them really.
Right.
I did. There is a very funny picture of like the three of us with Tyler the Creator, and I just look. It's just like what it looks like. I was photoshopped in. Like it's like insane. It's on Facebook. I'll look it up. It's like it is pretty funny.
Were you a big fan of his?
I mean, I'm not a huge fan, but I like him. I think he's good. He's I like Flower Boy. I like when he became more like R&B and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like his more melodic stuff too.
Yeah.
Did you become less of a fan afterwards, or
no? It was a neutral experience. Okay. He was totally friendly, just not. We didn't really interact. Like, I feel like if I had like killed, then we might have had like a positive interaction. But then, I think I did kind of mediocre. So he was like, all right, whatever. Let me just, and he was there with like his 15 boys. It's like wasn't the. And Jamar was there, and Jamar is such like a. Do you know Jamar?
I've met him. I met him a couple times.
But you're familiar with his.
He's super funny.
He's super funny, and he just has the craziest. He just, it's impossible to like be in a room with him and for him not to be the center of attention.
Right.
So that was part
and you're
of it
not
too.
saying that as a dig. You mean that as like
no, he should be the center of attention.
He just has a personality. I know, man. I'm always so jealous of those people that just naturally exude this personality where it's just like everyone's just sucked into them.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's probably a key variable to succeeding in comedy, I guess. To be like, I should, because I think I've always had a weird, like, I want attention, but also attention scares me, and also I resent that I want it, and I resent, and so then it's just this like mental block that
similar, man. My relationship with attention, it's very complicated, and it's very like I just want it for the time that I'm up there, and then as soon as it's over, I'm the polar opposite of that, where it's just other people are like, man, that it just seems cool. Like I'd have to commit a crime in a room for people to be like, whoa, we're all talking to you now. It just seems, I've always been jealous of that.
And you're like a good listener too, which sometimes works against people trying to succeed in show business, because it's like you're like, oh, like let me hear about you, and
totally.
But I think to the personality type that often succeeds is more like, let me tell you about
me. Yeah, totally, man. No, I'm just. I've been at parties or whatever where it's just I feel bad for the other person because I'm just locked in.
Right.
I'm Barbara Walters. This is turning point where I'm just I'm locked into you for the whole time, and But I started where I feel comfortable, I guess.
No, I think it's good. I think I think it's a virtue, but it unfortunately sometimes virtues don't align with like what show business desires.
Yeah, of course. No one's gonna write a show about a listener. Yeah, it's like
What's the
except
closest
for Frasier? But
I mean, I guess there are those like TV shows about therapy, like in treatment. Remember that? There's like a Showtime show. It was like it would like be about a therapist, and it would be like three episodes per week where different patient. I guess there's that. There's it's all shows about therapists, like Dr. Melfi. Is a good listener, I guess.
I think Jason Bateman in Arrested Development was like the closest I could see to a main character, relating to a main character in a show.
Oh, actually, that's very I could see that really well.
Just kind of being the glue guy and being like the sort of like, let me try to manage all of these people. Yeah, because even Seinfeld, he has a person like
for sure.
He's driving a lot of the action. Yeah, whereas I think Michael Bluth is more just kind of like trying to wrangle
things are happening around him, and he's trying to get a handle on it. Did you ever did you ever try to like write a sitcom based on your life?
Yeah, I've tried a couple of different ways to do it. There was just so many moving parts. I felt like I couldn't get them all in the same place in a way which felt cohesive. I think the last iteration is probably the closest I've ever come to that. Yeah. But nothing ever really materialized with it.
Was it something your management was like, you should do this, Anthony, or were you like, I should just try to?
No, it was just over the pandemic. Yeah. It was just like myself and then Dan Shackey, who he's more adept at story and TV writing stuff. So we tried to write something which we sent around and it got a lot of positive response. It was just like nothing went further than that. But it's probably the closest I've come in sort of like arranging all the parts into one, where I was like, okay, like this is a package thing that makes sense.
When you say all the parts, do you mean the parts of the story? Or
yeah,
got it.
Just because it was like, because I don't really, talk about, I mean, she's passed now, but, my grandmother had met a guy in a nursing home who was like a quarter, 25 years younger than her. It was a blind black guy that, they fell in love. He had one leg. It was like, there was that whole thing.
Sure.
And then there was like, okay, now my father was a made man in an organized crime family. So there was like, there's just always been all these like, and it's a good problem to have. Stand up, it's excellent because you're just like, oh, I have all these things to talk about.
Right.
But for a show, it was like, I don't know how to rein in all that stuff and then also be like, well, what's my journey with this?
Yeah.
So it always felt like for me, I've always just sort of been like a glue person, just sort of, I don't know, like reporting on my family.
Yeah.
So I think the best thing we came up with was like a show about a guy who was going to break up with his family.
Oh.
Because like...
Oh, right, because it's too dysfunctional.
Yeah, it was just too dysfunctional, and like eventually, like, I do have this heart thing, so we're kind of playing on that angle of like...
Like a medical
heart.
What is it?
It's nothing. It's I have a bicuspid valve that's like undetected since birth. I found this out a couple of years ago, but it's caused a dilated aorta, and it's depending on the size, it's fatal. It's not now. It's just something I get checked every year or whatever.
Right.
But for the sake of for the purpose of the show, the character would find out that they have this hard thing that's stress related. Yeah. That basically was like, hey, if you want to live, you're gonna have to make changes in your life. And basically, like, and this is who I am in general. Is like. I'm pretty easygoing to a fault where it's like, people are then walking all over me, or I'm stretched so thin I'm not doing anything for myself. So that was the idea of the show, was it like it all came to a head, and then I learn I have this thing, and then like the character comes to a conclusion that it's like, oh, I don't think this is tenable, and I'm gonna have to break up with my family. At the end of the show, you're going to watch a guy break up with his family.
Oh,
so
that's a cool idea.
Yeah. So yeah, we like the idea, and like, it's kind of something where, I don't know, I feel like I'm probably wrong, but you just kind of hold on to these things that you're like, there's something here. And then if something pops within me in comedy, then you go, well, I have this thing. And then people go, whoa, that's amazing now. Whereas before they would be like, cool email.
Sure. That is, one thing I've gotten from development people is like, oh, what a fun idea.
Yes.
They like, I think they like saying, oh, that's so fun.
Yep.
It's almost as if they don't want to say funny, because that would like compromise them too much or something. It's like very, I don't know. It's a lot of like weird double talk.
Yeah,
does that relate? Do you relate to that? Like
100%, man. I find that more even after sets.
Yeah,
people are like, fun set.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I'll walk into traffic for a fun set.
What the fuck does that mean?
Just, it's funny, or just like, hey, great to see you.
Yeah,
or totally. Whatever.
Fun set. I know it's maddening.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really.
What was I doing up there that was so fun?
I know.
It drives me crazy.
Have you gotten that from like agents and stuff? Fun set. I've specifically gotten that from like whatever people at some network that went to a show that I was at, and they're like, oh, that was fun. It's like, what the
I don't
fuck
think
does that mean?
I've been in front of an agent or an industry person for so long I can forget.
Really?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, at a certain point you kind of you have your sort of moments where you're young and fetid within the industry, and then like, it's the turnover rate's so high that like you're sort of ushered out of the way until you do things on your own. But then people go, whoa,
right?
Like, we have
to pay attention to you.
Yeah.
No, I think I'm in that period of time as well. Yeah, I think I had like a little. I didn't have like tremendous heat, but a little bit of paying attention, and then it's like I just didn't quite capitalize on it, and now it's like, who cares?
You'll drive yourself crazy trying to capitalize on it. You do whatever you do, and if it happens in that moment, it happens. And in some ways, it's freeing because you're like, okay, well, I'm no longer tethered to. I'm trying to do this to achieve success in someone else's eyes.
Yes.
As much as like, all right, let me just see how good I can get.
Yeah.
And then hopefully like a cool thing maybe attaches itself to that.
Right.
And if nothing happens, well, I just do this.
Right. Yeah.
And that's all I ever wanted in the first place. So cool.
Yeah. I've got two things I want to ask you about.
Sure.
Okay, one, the heart condition, but you bicuspid valve, is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's called a bicuspid valve.
Okay.
It's I get it checked once a year.
It is in reality stress related. Like, does stress affect it?
No.
Okay.
Stress in terms of my doctor was like, you can't lift weights anymore. So I think like physical stress affects it.
Got it.
I think it maybe naturally will just enlarge over the course of my life.
Yeah.
And then if it gets to a certain point, I'll need surgery.
Yeah.
But, I think it's pretty routine.
Right. The surgery is routine.
Yeah. For the sake of the fictional show.
I understand. I'm just curious how it like actually affects your,
Right.
I
can't lift weights anymore, which is a huge detriment to me, man.
Huge detriment to humanity.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. We don't get a ripped Anthony DeVito. I would like to, yeah.
God, these people don't get their daily dose of eye candy.
Dude,
I feel bad for their sugar
God
intake.
damn, dude, yeah. I had a heart condition when I was a kid. I had Wolf Parkinson White.
Okay, so what is
which
that?
Is similar. It's a similar. It's like there's something to do with the valves in your heart. There was like an extra one or something, and so I would get these kind of like, they felt like panic attacks where suddenly my heart would just like start beating like crazy, and I'd be like, I would feel like I was like on a train that was going like 200 miles per hour, and I was just like, what the fuck? And then it would like pass, and then so I got a surgery for it, and it was pretty minor. It was like they put a stent in through a vein, and then they just like closed it up. So it didn't end up affecting my life too much. But I remember that I had that when I was a kid.
Now the extra valve?
Yeah.
What do they do with that?
I don't really know. I guess they closed it up somehow, or they I should know in more detail because it happened to me. But yeah, I
didn't let you keep it and you wear it as a necklace for the rest of your life. To remember past pain.
Yeah, that would be. Oh man, that'd be sick. That's very Italian. That's a suggestion. Yeah. And then just medical stuff. I had testicular cancer a few years ago, so I got a testicle removed. So I go to the doctor every year to like check on that. So just like that stuff ages you, It's like,
of course,
you just sitting in a waiting room, dude. I was sitting in a waiting room, and there was an old lady next to me, and she turns to me and she goes, "You're young to be in here." I'm like, "Thank you, thank you so much." And then she just kind of starts chatting. She's like, "What are you in here for?" And it's like, it feels like rude, but I'm like, "Wow, testicular cancer." She's like, "Oh," I'm like, "It's fine." I'm like, "All right." And then she starts just kind of talking to me about the horrible story about how her husband went to the hospital and they said that he had a lymph node that was benign, but it turned out not to be, and then he died of cancer, and now she wants to sue them for malpractice. And it's like, fuck. And then I go into the into the doctor. It's like,
well, good luck with all that.
It's just, it's insane. But mine was so like, I don't have cancer anymore. It's all fine. I ended up having a super easy experience with it, so like, I'm kind of grateful for the whole thing because I do think it gave me perspective.
Oh, I definitely.
Yeah.
I think it really is nice to have those sort of check-ins with your own mortality.
Yeah.
As you don't want them too often because you don't want to live like that.
Yeah.
But it is nice to have those every now and again to just kind of realign you in terms of perspective. Yeah. I will say that's the one thing. My grandma passed pretty early on in the pandemic, and that is the one. But she was in a nursing home for 5 or 6 years prior to that, and going there once a month, I missed that. It was as sort of brutal as it was to see that environment, and but I do miss the like having all these problems and comedy and career, and then going there and being like, oh, none of that matters at all. Like I would just be like, "Where's your roommate?" And she'd be like, "She's dead now."
Yeah,
and I'd be like, "Yeah, right." Like,
dude, and then walking into a nursing home as a young person, you do have this glow about you. People look at you like, "What the fuck,
dude?" It's the best.
Yeah.
Because especially around New York, man, everyone is so young and doing comedy if you just did comedy in New York, you would be like, the whole world is 24 years old.
Yeah, no, I know. It's maddening.
So you're like, I am an old person. Yeah. And you go to a nursing home and you're like, I am a spry young man. I only have 4 gray pubes. I am a young man. Yeah.
Oh, man. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to ask, and so you have a one-person show about your dad being a made man, so I guess I don't know how much you want to talk about it.
We'll talk about everything.
Yeah, so like, how did you find that out, and what was that like?
Yeah, it was wild, man. So, I mean, all I knew about him growing up was whatever my mom told me.
Yeah.
Which were kind of like heroic stories. She kind of slipped a thing in, which I didn't catch when I was in third grade.
Yeah.
Where she like really made it a point to tell me that my dad was the kind of guy who didn't take shit from anyone.
Yeah.
But all I knew about him was that what she told me, which is he died in a car accident when I was a baby, and that, you know, he stood up for himself. That's literally all I knew. The rest, I just kind of like put together an image of a person you want them to be in your head.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun, you know, when you don't have a parent, you get to make up, you know, the folklore of who they are,
right, yeah,
to kind of guide you through life. And there's nothing bad about them. Why would you make up a bad thing?
Sure,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
I don't know what insane child would be like, you know, and he was overweight, you know, right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's really all I knew about him. I didn't pry too much, just because I could tell my mom would always just get kind of weird. Like she's very, very cheerful and very, very like, raised me as a single mom, did everything for me.
Yeah.
Like I was very aware of that. But when
you guys were very close.
And we're
it was
super
loving
close.
relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when it came to my dad, she would get a little distant and a little strange, and I just didn't want her to be upset.
Yeah.
So I was like, it doesn't, rocking the boat here seems like it's not going to do anybody any favors. And then I was 18 playing basketball, just playing pickup in the park, and there was a guy there who looked similar to me. Never seen him before.
Yeah.
And you know, like pickup basketball, if it's like a new person, you're like, because everybody plays every day. It's the same group of people. So you're like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
So, you know, it seemed like a nice enough guy. And then after the game, he came up to me and he was like, oh, hey, you know, your last name is DeVito. I'm your cousin from your father's side.
Oh, wow.
So I was just, because I was raised by all women.
Yeah.
So I was like, there's a guy my age.
Yeah. No,
like,
for
I'm
sure.
like, where have you been, man?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I've just
yeah.
been hearing about thyroid medication for 18 years. So I went home to tell my mom. I was like, I met my cousin from my father's side.
Yeah.
And that was the moment I think out of fear, she was like, I need to tell you about your dad. And that's when she told me that he was a made guy in a crime family.
Yeah.
And she, you know, I memory now, but like, I didn't know the details of how he died in that moment. And I didn't know the magnitude of, like, I guess the crimes he committed in that moment. All I knew was like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, kind of cool. I'm 18.
Right. No, that stuff is super romanticized. It's like, for sure.
I'm 18 years old.
Yeah.
You're telling me my dad was Tony Soprano?
Right.
Like,
No, I know.
This is pretty sick.
Yeah.
And then...
And you're from Jersey, right?
Yeah, I'm from North Jersey.
Okay. Yeah. So, right. Yeah. Even more.
So she might have told me. It sucks when you get. It's like things just get a little foggy.
Yeah.
Where she might have told me or might not have. I don't remember. But then when I had an ex-girlfriend who I told, because my mom was very adamant about keeping it a secret.
Yes.
And that she was crying. And,
Yeah.
and she had lived through this, and you know, so she was like, this is very, you know, as whatever as it is, like, this is very serious, and you can't tell anyone, because for her also, it's like everything, and I didn't know this at the time, but everything she had been through with him, like, this was yesterday to her.
Right.
So
right.
like, you know, that it's a kind of trauma which never leaves you. So
Sure.
she was petrified.
And did she still have like social ties to the family that he was part of?
Not really.
Okay.
Not out of like malice or anger or anything. Just out of more like, she kind of wanted me to have, I think, a fair shake at a different life.
Of course.
And just wanted to keep me safe. I mean, she, you know, spoiler alert, like, he didn't die in a car accident.
Right.
He was, you know, he was assassinated. He was found in the trunk of a car. So it's like,
Yeah.
I think when, you know, when that happens to a person you like, you know, she was like, I can't have you suffer the same fate.
Yeah.
So she wanted to keep me very away from that.
Damn.
Yeah.
And so how did you find out more about his life?
Oh, right. Sorry.
Did you end up meeting the cousin? Like,
we talked for a little bit, but like, no, she was very like, you can't, she was just so scared.
Yeah.
And not out of like, these are bad people, anything like that. She was just like, I've kept you away from them for 18 years.
Yeah.
Not away from them, but away from falling into the trappings of a life which led to my father's, violent death.
Yeah.
So I think she was more just like, stay away so you can keep going down this different path.
Right.
And then so I never really told. I mean, it made slip out to close friends, whatever.
Sure.
But like, really was very, very good about not telling anyone. And then my ex-girlfriend, I had told her, and then she looked him up.
Oh.
She Googled him, and then based on what she found, she was like, you should really look for yourself. And then when I looked, it was like a New York Times headline.
Wow.
With like, first was, so it was pretty gruesome.
Yeah.
And it was also like,
was it painful to read?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Just because it was like, it was so gruesome.
Yeah.
That it was like, you start to, it's not television. You're like, that was my father.
For sure. Yeah.
So it's like, it was hard for sure. Yeah.
Did your mom grow up in that kind of environment? How did she
No.
meet him?
I mean, that's ideal for like the people of his world, is to find someone who's completely foreign to that environment, because they're naive to it.
Sure.
So no, she grew up very, very opposite. Just like my grandmother, just like a very like hardworking Italian American.
Yeah.
And then my mom, she never really had any boyfriends or anything. So like my dad was a very charming guy who showered her with attention and gifts, and like she fell in love with him. And then once you're that deep in love with somebody, I mean, we've all been there, where you're willing to overlook things, and like, this is North Jersey in the 70s. Like, a lot of people are connected. So it's like, that's a pretty standard fare thing to overlook for a woman of that time.
Sure. Yeah. And then how did you decide to start doing your show about it?
I found out, weirdly enough, I found out about this heart thing.
Yeah.
And then like, I mean, when you think you're going to die, especially as you're older, you start to really like take in your legacy, what you're leaving behind. These things swirl through your brain, and this was also something that like I never really confronted within myself, and like comedy was always the best way for me to sort of parse out my feelings. So not being able to talk about him on stage, I felt like I never really could grasp how I felt about him.
Because your comedy is, I mean, I think you delve into somewhat serious subject matter, but generally speaking, it's very light. It's very like pleasant, friendly, easygoing. It's like, so it's not like Mark Maron. You're not digging into trauma. Yeah. So it's like, it's a very interesting pivot for you to take.
It was just something that was like, and I knew how complicated it was going to be. Because I would try to do it. I think I first tried to do it at an open mic, and people were like, what the
I know, dude, it's so much to even...
It's so much unpack. And I wasn't completely comfortable in my feelings talking about it. So, and the last thing I ever wanted to do was a one-man show.
No, I know. It is so... I know, dude, it's so funny because, it's like they do have this kind of prestige-y, cutesy sting to them, but your story in particular, it's like, I don't want to hear glib stand-up comedy about that.
Exactly.
I do want to hear a real depiction of it. So it's like, that is like a great format for it.
That seemed to be the only format. And so I mean, the hour, basically it's like an hour-long show. I think like 40 minutes is stand-up, 20 minutes is serious, and they're all kind of spliced together.
Right.
But I done my best to let the serious moments hang out as best they can, but also I'm not an actor. I don't love a TED Talk. Some people, and I'm not knocking them, some people are like, they get a lot out of that.
They live for the poignant pause.
Which is awesome for them. I just don't. I get bored of their doing that. So there are probably more jokes than other people would put in the show, but that's for the sake of like, I still want it to be entertainment. But also my mom, more so for her, she was like, it's interesting, like she doesn't view herself as a victim. And I think a lot of people, it would be very easy for people to listen to the story and go, you are a victim.
Sure.
But I think that in her head diminishes her and what she went through.
I think that's fair.
So she was more so she was like, I want it, because I've written the show with her.
Because interesting.
Because I don't know, like this is all stuff that's I don't know, so I don't want to misstep, and there's serious repercussions to that misstep.
Of course.
So she knows that world better than I do. So she's been very like hands-on in terms of
that's very cool,
making it being delicate about the subject. So,
Hey, can you give me a specific example of what it's like to co-write this show with your mom?
she has notes, man.
Really?
She'll be like, I don't know, like that joke, like I don't really get that. Like, there's those moments where you're like, Jesus Christ, like maybe I shouldn't do this.
So you have the whole show, and then you're like, here it is, and then your mom gives you notes. It's not like from the get-go you guys are crafting it together necessarily.
No, I mean, like I was picking out pieces and being like, can I say this?
Right.
And she's like, if you're gonna say that, you have to word it like this.
Yeah.
You can't use this word. You can't bring this up. This
for safety.
Yeah, all for safety. For her, it's all for safety.
Sure, yeah.
Like she's only maybe had a couple like artistic notes where she's just like, I don't really know about that.
Right. Yeah.
But I can, I'll supersede her on those.
That's
stuff.
funny. Yeah.
But
you're such a nice young man. Why do you have to curse on stage? Or what? I don't know. I don't know what your mom's notes are, but stuff like that. Yeah.
Some of her jokes are like she always wants. She's very big on Ocean's 11 and working that in however she can.
Yeah, she loves that movie.
She loves that movie, which has not made the show, but she just loves an Ocean's 11 reference.
That's hilarious.
But going back to that point of she was very, very bullish about it being funny because to her, I think if she didn't want to feel pitied, and she, I mean, this will maybe sound a little terse, but like, you laugh with survivors and you pity victims. So she wanted it to be funny because she sees herself as a survivor and not a victim. So she was very, very like...
And there's probably aspects of it that are genuinely very funny. It's just an insane situation
100%. It's just a matter of the audience allowing themselves that it's funny.
Yeah.
And, I've never experienced theater crowds, so they're very, they want you, it's an interesting thing. They experience it very differently.
Well, I remember talking to you maybe somewhat recently after you did Edinburgh, and pardon me for repeating this, but you were like, it kind of went badly. You were
it was horrible.
You were like, I kind of like bombed for the entire month. And I remember being like shocked because I was like, dude, like, I mean, I haven't seen your one person show, but just based on your stand up and based on the story, it's like, oh, it's like sounds amazing. And like, you're so funny. I couldn't imagine. But then, and then you were telling me more about like what they wanted. And partly I was like, dude, I think this is literally anti-Italian discrimination. I think they like wanted like cute, clever, like wayfish, skinny Brits talking about social anxiety, and then you like bring this like fucking heavy duty stuff, and also you're like it's full of jokes, and they just didn't know how to interpret it. That was how I understood it. At least.
I mean, I that's how I have to feel about it too, or else
sure,
or else I'll go myself. Sure. But I do think, and you don't realize how, especially doing stand-up, I don't think we realize how abrupt our language is. It's like, man, there's so much bite in the way that we talk, and there's so much honesty in the way that we talk, and that's how this works.
Yeah.
So you don't really see that until you do a theater festival,
right? And
then you're like, oh my god, I'm like a brute to them.
Yeah, I know. So crass.
So crass. Yeah. There was so much pearl clutching going on.
That's very funny.
And it was hard, and it was hard for me to take them serious because you're like, man, these are theater cartoon people,
right?
And you have to act like they're normal people that are out there in the world.
That's fucking funny.
And it's like you're wearing 9 scarves. Yeah, and I'm not exaggerating.
Right. Would you remember a specific line that you would say and they would get upset about, and you'd be like, "Are you guys fucking kidding me?"
Oh yeah, I mean there were so many. I mean a lot of them have been cut out now, but there was I think I had a. I mean, I still have a Hitler joke in there, but I stand by it.
Sure, yeah.
But there was a Bill Cosby joke that was in there, and I think the double up of that was and it was also where it's like other jokes were bombing. Yeah. So I knew once I got there, I was like, oh, this is going to be, like, they're gonna feel this bomb on their body for years to come.
That is very funny.
Yeah. And I don't remember the exacts of the Bill Cosby joke. I'll try to remember it as a podcast.
No, sure.
But but that one would horrifically bomb.
That's so funny to like be bombing and then be like, you guys aren't even ready for. Yeah,
this isn't even bombing yet.
You guys don't even know how much you don't like me.
You think you hate me? Yeah, man.
There's something admirable about that.
I would pretty much walk into that every day for 30 days.
Man.
Or however many performances I did.
There's some comics who will bomb, and then famously Patrice O'Neal would do this. I think like Shane Gillis is also kind of like this, where it's like they're bombing and they're like, fuck it, and then they like uproot the earth, and it's just like this kind of glorious nightmare, for everybody, and it's sort of there's a sort of legendary thing to it. I'm not like that at all. If I'm bombing, I'm so like tail between my legs. Like I still want them to like me. It's horrible. I wish I was a little bit more, I don't know, of a terrorist in that way, I guess. But it's like, it's hard. I think if it's like really hurts my feelings and I can't quite explain, or Doug Stanhope does this too. Yeah. I don't know. Do you have any of that in you of like, fuck them?
I do, but it doesn't come off as charming.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like Shane, Patrice, Bear, it comes off as very charming.
Yeah,
it comes off as like defiant, but in a joyful way.
Yeah.
Where it's like you can tell I'm so mad. Yeah. I'm not a good enough actor. It's like I'm just like I'm on the brink of tears.
Yeah, that's so funny, man.
It's so uncomfortable.
Dude, I think about
for
that
everybody.
I think about that so much of who can be charming on stage by being like mean, and and I just always think that like if I try to be mean on stage, I come off like American Psycho. Like,
Same.
It's just like upsetting.
It's upsetting.
Yeah,
because it's so real.
Yeah,
because I don't have a gate. Yeah, because I'm not. I don't access my anger very often.
Yeah.
So when I get there, it's like I'm in the dark.
Yeah.
So I'm just like a wild animal. And I think if you're very in touch with your anger, once you're angry, you're like, yeah, I'm pissed off.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Kind of,
it's very much just like, there's
it's
just
free flowing. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's kind of funny.
Throughout my day, sometimes I get pissed off, and I know how to operate when I'm there.
Yeah.
But
there's steam valves.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's funny because you're so easygoing that when you do finally get angry, it's like it's a subterranean chamber. It's like the cask of Amontillado. You're like, come into my wine cellar and I'm gonna fucking bury you,
dude. It is like
that's very funny.
I was in Pittsburgh last weekend and it happened where I was doing a don't tell.
Yeah,
and it was. And sometimes you don't give yourself enough grace for just being a human being.
Yeah.
It's like I just drove 4 hours from being with my wife and her family in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And like my mother-in-law, we're helping her move into this assisted living place because she had a stroke.
Yeah.
So there's all these other things going on.
Yeah.
And I drive to Pittsburgh, and then when I get there, and like don't tells are great.
Yeah.
And then there's me knocking them, but sometimes you're just in the middle of a vintage clothing shop.
Oh, dude.
And you're like, what happened to me?
Yeah.
I did Access TV.
Yeah.
I got two people high-fived during my Gotham comedy live set. What happened? There are more pants than people here. What happened, Anthony? So, you have all these things going through your head.
Yeah.
And the crowd was, and you're seeing this a little bit more where like, crowds that have only engaged with comedy on social media, so they're like, oh, we assume we get to talk.
Yeah.
And why would they think they're wrong when it's generating huge revenue for people?
Yeah.
And this isn't me doing that, but that's just what's happening.
No, I agree.
So everybody in that particular crowd was like, well, I'm the funniest person here, and it wasn't just an isolated.
Infuriating.
It's infuriating.
Yeah.
And normally you'd be like, okay, well that person is like that, but the whole crowd is mad at them. No, every other person was like, no, I'm funny too.
Right.
So it was.
I'm Spartacus.
Yeah, it really did feel that way, man. So, and I knew it right off the bat.
Yeah.
I was like, I was like, oh, I'm 41. Anyone in their 40s, and like a 20-year-old guy in the front row was like, me, dog.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is gonna be bad.
Yeah.
And then everyone's laughing at him.
Right.
So I'm like, so you have to delicately walk around that because you're like doing 30 to 40 minutes. 10 minutes, it's like whatever, I'll lay into him if the next 8 or whatever. But it's like, this is gonna be a longer set. We have to figure out how to kind of set the room where I'm not the villain, but I'm also in charge. So it's a little difficult, and I'm winning ugly. I'm pulling it off. It's not a great set.
I like winning ugly. By the phrase. That's nice.
But I am. It's happening. It's a battle. But there's talking, there's me in the crowd, like there's these things, but we're doing it. And then my closing joke, I hear a woman just talk through the joke, and it broke me.
Yeah.
And I snapped, And I went, shut the fuck up. I've been listening to you all day.
Yeah.
And no longer. You have to shut the fuck up. And I know you're here with somebody. And I said, I'm so sorry for you that you have to be with them for however much longer. And I really hope it's not that long. This is verbatim what I said. It was so uncomfortable. Because it was so...
Nobody laughed at the...
there was no... Because there wasn't an ounce of levity in my voice. It was just pure... I don't normally go to this place, so now I'm here. And I don't know how to be here. So here's the meanest thing I can think for it to end.
Oh, man.
And then I went... That
was your closer.
That was my closer. And then I went, okay, guys... I can just walk away, and I know this was uncomfortable and it was weird, and I did this, or I'll do one more, and it was like, do one more, do one more, half a laugh. I get off stage, I'm like, oh boy, and then that woman afterward, she confronts me, and she goes, she goes, I just want to say, I generally like your comedy, which I also was like, wow, way to qualify your fandom.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
And then she goes, I was just having fun.
Yeah.
And I normally I would just acquiesce. Yeah. But for whatever reason I dug in and I was like, no, you were talking.
Yeah.
And you can't. And she goes, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. And I went, oh, no. It's not about feelings. It's about hearing.
Yeah.
And I heard you talk.
Yeah.
And then she goes, well, you lost a fan. And I was like, why wouldn't we want you? At some point I was like, are we married? Like, what is this? and then she got out of there. And I obviously like, it's an interesting feeling at a point in a career where I was like, because I don't normally stand up for myself, so I was like I was somewhat proud of myself for doing that, and then I was like deep regret that I might have lost a fan.
Yeah,
you know,
whatever.
But
I'm proud of you.
Thanks,
for what
man.
it's worth. I'm glad
Thank
that you. Those man.
But it definitely scared. Not scared. I think it opened the eyes of the other comics there because. You know, they never
were they
really,
all just like local Pittsburgh comics?
Local Pittsburgh guys who never met me or maybe saw a thing and they were like, "Oh, what a smiling, laid back to the point of sleep guy." And then all of a sudden, I'm telling a woman to shut the fuck up. Yeah.
That's
so
amazing, man.
I don't know how to like just get angry in a healthy way.
And do you feel like you're mild mannered and easygoing, kind of in response to like people in your family being like having strong personalities?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't. I had to be that person.
Peacekeeper.
Yeah. But I also think that's. I mean, like, who knows what your nature is just because of environment. But like, I'm very happy to exist in that place.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good way to be.
Yeah. If I can be there and like that's when I think I'm at my happiest.
Yeah. And then, what are you doing with your one-person show now? Are you just like waiting for the next opportunity to?
Yeah, I mean,
do it again.
Sam got on board to produce it,
nice,
which
awesome.
is like huge.
Dude, so that's cool.
Yeah, man, that allowed me to do it a lot more.
Yeah.
Just a lot more places just started responding because of that. So. I mean, really, it's just a matter of running it. Where it's like stand-up, you can get up every night and do stand-up. But with these kinds of shows, like...
You need the actual full time to do it.
So that's why it's like, I think I've been working on it for like 6 years.
It's amazing.
But it's just a matter of like, over those 6 years, I've probably maybe done it 100 times.
That's great.
You know, which is good. But then you think about how often you do jokes.
No, of course. Yeah.
So
it's not that many times compared to stand-up, but it is, it's many times to do a show, an hour.
So, I think it's getting pretty close, like... writing wise to being done, and then I have a director and like she's helping out with the performance, and I think when she signs off, basically when she and whoever when I and the other people that are involved go, we think it's ready, then it's like
you'll film it somewhere.
Well, maybe try to do one, bring people out and get a run, and if that doesn't happen, we'll try to film it and sell it.
Awesome, man. Yeah. Who's the director?
Kimberly Senior. She's awesome, man. She did Gethard's Career Suicide.
Oh, nice.
And she's just really like, she very, very, like, I think she saw the show and she was like, I get who you are. You're not a theater person.
Yeah.
We're going to try to just make some things more dramatic without taking you away from you.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm not going to try to change you. I'm not going to try to change your jokes. I might be like, should this joke go here? Should that go there? Here's a tag. Man, she's awesome. She really and she's elevated the show in ways that like I never could.
That's cool. Has she started thinking of ways to film it? Like what, like the cinematography of it?
I don't think so just yet. I think we're still like trying to nail down the show itself. And then I think when we get to a place where we're comfortable there, then we can start to add those elements in.
And can you give an example of a cool or a good useful note that she gave you as a director?
I mean, this will
if it's not spoiling too much.
No. I mean, this will like it's just a lot of story structure stuff.
Yeah.
So the show's a little complicated because it's like it's my story and then it's my mom's story and then it's like not so it's. I mean, basically, those are the big two threads.
Yeah.
So she's been really good at just organizing them in a way that's very organic and that flushes out in the end to be satisfying, which I could never do.
Yeah. And then since you learned all that stuff, how do you feel about like mob entertainment, like the media depictions of the mob?
I mean, I think it's funny.
Yeah.
I think it's funny just in how I get it. You know what I mean? Like, these are like jokes in the show, but it's like, yeah, man, I get it. Like we all take shit from people
right
in our lives. They don't. Well, of course, that's like intoxicating to watch.
Sure.
And I just think and shows and movies, it just so happens like the best ones ever happen to be about this subject.
It is
in terms
true.
Of like Godfather, Goodfellas, Sopranos.
Yeah.
It's like these are prestige films and television.
No, I know.
So it's like impossible to deny.
Yeah, truly
that.
the best versions of the of the medium. I guess like novels. I feel like the best novels aren't about the mob, but like film and TV for sure.
Yeah, James Joyce didn't do.
No, yeah. I mean, I read the Godfather novel in high school.
Yeah,
it's I loved it, but it's like a total mess.
Right.
The whole thing. There's a famous thing in it where, Mario Puzo, the guy who wrote it, he goes in this long tangent about Sonny's girlfriend. And about Sonny has this huge cock, and they fuck, and then his girlfriend, her pussy gets fucked up, and then she has to get like vaginal tightening surgery. This is a whole subplot in the book. It's like he really goes into it, and it ends with her, I believe, marrying the doctor who tightens her pussy in Las Vegas, and it's like
so funny to be like, let me inject my big dick fan fiction in this as well.
It's crazy.
It's so funny.
There's so much about Sonny's huge dick in the book. So anyway, so that's not an example of but movie wise,
my show too. It's, mainly. Nah, man. Yeah, I never that's the one thing I don't want people to walk away from the show and be like feel bad for watching The Sopranos.
No, I would never assume that's your.
Yeah, it's just kind of an alternate take to be like, here's how it really is.
Sure.
And The Sopranos I think does a really good job of that.
Yeah.
But this is more so like, okay, what if in the last episode Tony does die?
Yeah.
Here's what happens to the family.
Yes, yeah.
Here's
for sure.
Here's how, a mother raises her son knowing this and trying to figure out what's best option here moving forward, and like what's it like to sort of reconcile with like, this is who my dad was. He was this killer, he was this criminal, but then he was also my father and a husband to my mother.
Yes.
And like, making peace with that.
Yeah. And also, you didn't have a personal relationship with them, so that's the other thing. That's like, it's like this kind of vacant. They have this vacant space that you're kind of like trying to figure out what you feel about.
Exactly. So it's taken me on a journey that's at like times been ugly and at times been very cool to learn these sort of just like personal details about him with my mother.
Yeah.
And then ugly details that books that I've read with his name and
oh wow
yeah and things that he's done.
Did your parents have a loving relationship?
Yeah very much so. I mean it's just kind of if it's all this is the work you do.
Sure.
And like he was born into a family of this. And it's not to paint them as villains or anything like that, but like that's what so you don't see it as like, oh, we're doing wrong. You're just like, this is the family business. And he kept that away from my mom, so it's just like it's just a work and home thing.
Sure. But your mom knew while she was married to him.
She knew. I mean, she obviously pieced it together later.
Right.
But I don't think she didn't know the extent of it until he went to prison.
Yeah.
And the judge read the crimes against him. That's when she was like. That's when she started to take another look at it. And but it was her husband when he got out. That's why she was very like feverish about having me.
Yes.
Because she felt like she was devoid of real love.
Yeah.
She felt like she had been lied and manipulated by him. So, wanted to have a fresh shot of love and saw me as like the chance
Does that put pressure on you as a son? Like,
maybe, yeah. I don't know. No, just because there's just pressure on me because she's a 78-year-old hairdresser.
Yeah,
who
right. There's like
horrible with money, and I have to.
There's practical pressure, but you don't feel like emotional pressure. I guess.
No, I think I've given so much in terms of like practical pressure that there's no room for emotional pressure.
That's actually kind of nice in a way.
Yeah. I don't even think I can get close to addressing
that. That's pretty funny.
She needs dental work.
Yeah. That's a funny, I mean, it's like, it is like good of you and sucks that you have to do that. But in a way it's like, wow, now we don't have to.
Totally. I have enough that,
we don't have to have all these conversations.
100%, man. I have enough emotional baggage from, whatever that is.
What's your favorite episode of The Sopranos?
I really like, and I think it's more of a concept episode, but that episode when they're, I think it's the opening episode of one of the seasons when they're bugging the house. I think artistically, for whatever reason, that episode just, I just thought that was like a really, maybe throughout the whole arc of the show that just stands out as like a different, kind of like singular episode that still ties into the rest of the show. I don't know why that episode
when the FBI is bugging the house.
And like the whole episode is just kind of about that. It's almost like shot differently. The pacing is different. It's just really cool.
I liked all their all the little experimental touches. It's like I remember I go on the subreddit for The Sopranos a good amount just because I don't know, it just like helps me remember stuff, and then people are funny on it. But the one of them was like, dude, you guys remember that weird like slow wipe transition between like that Carmela, some scene with Carmela and the priest, and there's just a bizarre slow wipe, and like apparently nobody can account for it in the show. They like don't know why it happened. It's just funny. There were like a lot of like inexplicable things like that.
Yeah, I think my mom probably laughs the most at that stuff.
Yeah,
maybe just in how The Sopranos has sort of taken on this like just film junkie kind of life. Yeah. So I think for her to be like, wow, people are like waxing poetic about the kind of like I think for her she was like, yeah, your dad was just stressed all the time. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
it's not there's nothing prestigious about it.
Yeah. She's like, he was just like stressed all the time and like looked over his shoulder for his whole life. I don't think for her she saw it as like, she thinks it's hilarious that people, they're so removed from it that they find it so glamorous. But I also understand that it's like, it is very not easy, but it's like it's right there to take from that and make it poetic. In terms of like the way that they walk through life and the story of like, I mean, their story in general of pretty much just like coming from like denigrated immigrants to this country and rising to at one point controlling like every union in the country. Like,
and then the next generation or the next generation down being legitimate. Yeah, I feel like that's even something they talk about in the Sopranos. At one point, like Melfi is like having dinner with her therapist friends, and they're talking about their grandparents and how like and I guess that's you now. It's like
I mean that's really what they wanted. They wanted they were outcasts, so like this was a way for them to just survive, and like the goal was always just to be like legitimized and have like real, have real status or real power or whatever it is. Like, and it's a rough way to live. I would imagine being a criminal. So it's like, man, if you could get that without just worrying about your own safety every day, I would, probably better.
And generally, as you've been like talking about this stuff and being public with it, have you had concerns about your safety and your family safety, or is that stuff all addressed by your conversations with your mom and her being like, don't talk about this in this way?
Yeah, I mean, we're like pretty careful about like not pointing fingers in directions, because it's like so obviously not the point of the show. No, of course, and like there's no anger in me, and like none of it's about exposing. It's just about me trying to understand a complicated subject, which happens to be my father. But no, there's no names. There's no real like last names are different. There's like we tried as best we could to like tell the story in a compelling way without raising too many eyebrows. And there's stuff that we left out just because it would track too easily.
Right. Got it.
With people to be like, oh, it must be that person.
Sure.
You know, so it's been pretty vague. I mean, they sent someone to check out the show to make sure everything was on the up and up. I didn't know that. My mom told me about this after.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. That's when that's when I was like, oh right, this is real, because you do it long enough and it just becomes like, oh, this abstract show that I'm doing.
How did they know you were doing it? Just because of you posting about it and being public? Yeah. Wow.
So it was a couple weeks.
That would scare the shit
Oh, it's
out
freaky,
of me.
man. Yeah. For probably a couple weeks to a month, I was pretty freaked out.
Wow.
But my mom was pretty assuring that it was okay, and I think they were. I think they probably thought the show could have been better just as a show, which is kind of hilarious. Right. But it was a pretty early version of the show. But
well, also the other thing that's so interesting, and sorry to interrupt, but just like that, the history of stand-up comedy is so tied up with the mob.
Totally.
They own the comedy clubs, and like the fucking progenitors of the Forum are all just performing for contract killers,
and they're funny people.
Yeah,
they're if you're doing anything that dark, you have to have a release. So my mom was like, yeah, they were really funny. Yeah. They were like the dark jokes, believe me, but funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were worried, I think, for that aspect that I had mentioned of like, oh, is this like exposure? Is he meant like whatever it is? So I think when they saw that it wasn't that, they were pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
But I was like, what did they think? And she was like, not bad.
That's
and I was
so
like,
funny,
that hurts. But yeah, no, I mean, Come Back Now, obviously, it's like, it's pretty tuned up.
Just laughing at like one of them going to Edinburgh. It's like, I think fewer Bill Cosby jokes probably. Anthony, we end every episode by talking about a painting and then talking about a poem. You want to do that real quick?
I would love to.
Great. So let's pull up the painting, Scott, please. Okay, this is this one is sick. This is William Blake, The Great Red Dragon and the Woman Clothed in Sun.
Cool.
What do you think of this?
Man. Well, very horny.
Yeah, it's super horny.
Very super horny.
It's an insane painting. Yeah,
it really is an insane painting.
Yeah. Can you describe to our listeners what's going on in this painting?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's two dragon-like wings.
Yeah.
That are connecting to what looks like a muscular man's back.
Yeah.
And then there's a tail. And then they're just ripped thighs and calves.
Yeah.
Like, to the point where, like, these seem like implants.
Yeah.
And then this
could be you if it wasn't for your bicuspid valve, man.
And then there is a fallen woman.
Yeah.
Who's a golden woman.
Yeah.
Who's, looks, I mean, she's in the form of that she's diving into a pool. But she's on the ground, and she's looking up at this dragon man, and who knows what's going on the other side of him, but she may be looking at Sonny's large penis from Mario Puzo's The Godfather. Yeah. And then, there appears to be two horns, two curly horns at the top connected to his head. And I don't know.
That's about I think that's a pretty
about it. Yeah,
that's a pretty thorough description.
But, I mean, very what's very powerful.
What's the color scheme you're seeing? What kind of colors?
A lot of red, some auburn. You got some coppers.
Yeah,
and the woman is like a mustard gold.
Yes,
but it's dark. This is nothing light about this. There's a black backdrop. It looks like it's maybe happening on the other the void from Stranger Things. Very very dark. Like Francis Bacon-like.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good comparison. Yeah. Do you like this?
Yeah. I mean, it's
very intense and
it's a little intense.
Scary.
It's a little intense for me.
Yeah. No, for sure.
It's a little intense for me on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's jarring.
Yeah,
I like that I'm stopped in my tracks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's like the guy's like painting an ass like this in 1800 whatever. This is like 1805. It's like, I mean, I just can't imagine the reaction to it. Do you know anything about William Blake?
I don't know anything about William Blake. I heard the name, but don't know anything.
Just a poet of like a kind of mystical, visionary poet, and he also painted, and so he was very influenced by the Bible.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I think this is kind of something from like the Book of Revelations.
Okay, yeah. super definitely super biblical.
Yeah.
Kind of just like grand evil.
Yeah, for sure. And then the I heard about this painting because of the Hannibal Lecter kind of universe.
Sure.
Because first Red Dragon. Have you seen Red Dragon or any of the?
It's been a long time, but yeah.
So anyway, the bad guy in Red Dragon is obsessed with this painting specifically.
Okay.
His whole thing is he wants to be the dragon in this painting, and he wants to become that guy and dominate his victims, but also sort of sanctify them through killing them. It's this very like, I mean, a lot of like crime stuff is very stupid,
sure,
and trashy, and the Hannibal Lecter books are that, but there is like a kind of deep mysticism to them that I love.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where the bad guy in Francis Dollarhide, he goes to the Brooklyn Museum where this painting is like housed, and it's like just like a print, and he eats it.
Right, to absorb its power. I love that move. I always love that move.
It's so good.
I think it's a great move.
Yeah.
I think it's a great alchemy kind of
Yeah,
move.
I love that.
Where you just go, I think if I eat this thing, I can get all of its properties. I think as kind of a dumb guy, it's a connection I can make. So I'm like, I get it. I just think it's so funny.
If there's any work of art that you could eat and absorb its powers, which would it be?
That's a good question.
Would it be like a comedy album?
It'd probably be music.
Yeah,
it'd probably be music. Maybe for an energy that like this song has. Maybe even sometimes this will sound weird, but I think as your life gets more settled, you kind of miss the like the romantic parts of it because you're like all right, like I have like everything is pretty rote at this point.
Yeah.
So to kind of
a little bit of chaos,
a little bit of longing.
Yeah,
I'd love to be forlorn again.
Yeah,
is it forlorn? Is it okay? There's a couple R's in there.
Forlorn. Yeah.
I jump off with words and then I go, I embarrass myself horribly.
Yeah, I've done that many times.
God, it's man. You ever like listen to someone who has like a real command of words and you're like, boy, every time I'm doing a new one or one that I'm like, I am sweating buckets. Anyway, I would love that, like a national record. I would love to just like be that. I think be that like connected to my raw emotions.
That's funny because the National though, their vibe is like middle-aged sorrow.
Yeah.
So I think you can still get there.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think I wouldn't have to change a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want young that.
Yeah, right.
But I want, but I don't want anything bad to happen in my life.
No, of course.
But I would like there's an aliveness when you're that way.
Sure, yeah.
Which I think sometimes is lacking.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think there are times where I kind of look back on being like in my early 20s and like very lonely, and now I sort of romanticize it, but back then I felt horrible.
Yeah, horrible. Just terrible journal entries.
Yeah, dude, I tried journaling for a little bit, and I couldn't do it. I was like, my thoughts are stupid. Literally, I was like, my everything I think is dumb. It would literally be like, this barista's hot.
Yeah.
I want to go talk to her, but I'm scared. It'd be like that shit.
You really do learn how shallow you are.
What was your favorite band in high school?
My favorite band in high school. So when I was, I didn't start getting into music until college.
Oh, okay.
And I think before that, I exclusively listened to rap music.
Nice.
So the Locks.
Okay. Yeah. Wait, what's the? I actually.
The Locks are Jadakiss, Styles, and Chic Luke.
Nice.
They're a very hard rap group from Yonkers.
Yeah.
So I didn't know. I wasn't so emotionally I couldn't access my emotions to a point where music made sense for me. I was so guarded where like rap made sense. I liked the wordplay aspect of it, and then also I was like, they're funny.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
I wasn't so in tune emotionally with myself where I could get anything from real music. And then when I got to college, I was like...
But rap isn't real music. I mean, you're getting something from that.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
But it's like it's just a feeling, especially rap back then was just kind of a feeling of power.
Yeah,
which I think it's still kind of... I like...
So this is early 2000s?
Yeah.
Dude, early 2000s rap, the fucking CDs were like all 70 minutes long.
awesome. 100 skits. Yeah. It's great. The same skit over and over again. You're like, let me guess, a woman coming?
Yeah, and then a lot of like answering machine stuff.
Yeah, tons of answering
and like bong noises and shit.
Gunshots, robberies. It was mainly that. There wasn't a lot of people doing like Adam Sandler.
Right. And then the covers were always great. It was always just like a lot of stuff going on.
So much stuff.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, hard.
Yeah,
hard. So I think I don't know.
And then college. So what music did you then discover in college when you got
college? I was more. So I started working at the college radio station, and that was more like
that's great.
Super like. It's just super like wishy-washy, like folk, like Bright Eyes,
classic,
like Sun Ambulance, a lot of those like Saddle Creek records, kind of
Fleet
bands.
Foxes was that?
Fleet Foxes was a little later, but Fiery Furnaces were in there. Just a lot of like art folk sort of bands.
It's a funny pivot.
Yeah, it really it was. And I just didn't, because I'd only ever heard top 40 stuff. Yeah. And I don't know that I got a lot out of that. Yeah. But then rap, to me, the wordplay was very impressive. Yeah. And I just think like, I don't know, a drum beat does something to me.
Oh, for sure.
And so but then I think I discovered, not discovered, but like songwriters, and then just like cool art music, and I was like, oh, I like this a lot. Yeah. So it kind of became those, and Bob Dylan, like those were kind of became my people.
Favorite Bob Dylan record?
I mean, I Tangled Up in Blue, I think is classic.
Yeah. Oh wait, that's the song, the Blood on the Tracks.
Blood on the Tracks. Yes.
That is awesome. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I would say that's my answer too.
Yeah.
But then did you see the Netflix like road movie about him from like a few years ago that Scorsese did?
Yeah.
I forget what it was called. It was like the something review. It was like a fake documentary,
right,
including real footage but fake behind the scenes footage. But all the stage footage from that period is awesome because it's like 1975. The energy is really high,
right?
And Bob Dylan's voice sounds great, and I feel like that's like now it doesn't really.
Yeah.
I like his one from the early 90s. Damn. It's the first one where he gotta start sound like this. But I can't remember the name. Scott, can you look that up real quick? Bob Dylan's album from the early 90s. It's damn, I'm like totally blanking on stuff.
But yeah, no, that...
What about Springsteen? Do you like Springsteen?
I like Springsteen. I'm started getting him later on.
Yeah.
He was just such a force in New Jersey that it was like...
Did it almost feel hacky to be into him?
I felt like it. But then, then you go like, it's clearly like, this is incredible. But yeah, I think that was later on just because I was like, New Jersey, we're just so inundated with Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, sure.
And, obviously, we're very proud of him. He's probably our biggest guy.
Yeah.
Maybe Thomas Edison, I don't know.
I think I remembered it, Scott. It's Time Out of Mind.
Okay.
You know Time Out of Mind?
I don't actually. Yeah, I'll listen to it.
I recommend it. It's really good. And then, it's funny. I had a similar pivot in college where in high school, I like only listened to like heavy metal. And then in college, I was like, all right, everybody cool and sophisticated seems to like this kind of art indie shit. So I guess I'll get into this. And there are some bands that stuck around for that. Totally. But it was a weird, like, it didn't feel that authentic. From my evolution, it felt more like I was like
you're trying on.
I was kind of trying on something,
and seeing how that fits. Yeah, it felt. I went too. I would say I definitely went too far, and I think you get like I was just kind of walking as me, and then I never was a person, especially in high school, because a lot of people just went, I'm going to be that identity that already exists, and I never did that. So it was kind of a way to do that. So I was a little too excitable about that, where I was like making my own T-shirts and wearing like, like suit pants. I look like an asshole.
That's amazing.
But like
wait, so like an indie asshole, like what kind of asshole?
Yeah, like an indie asshole, where it was just like a real, just like a guy. If you were doing a show, you would look at and you'd be like, well, I'm not going to look over there.
That's so funny.
To tell my jokes.
That's, I mean, that sounds like the people in your Edinburgh audience. Is it kind of like that guy, or a little different?
A little different. I probably would have. I would have railed against them because they were too conventional. But it was just I was like, what is this thing? And I had just gone through a breakup, so I was super vulnerable to just like, I want to be a different person anyway. So it's like, oh, cool, I can just become this person. That's great. And I think, I don't know, maybe I caught a glimpse of myself in a mirror, and I was like, you're not this. This has got to end. You can like this music. You can't be in the band. You look ridiculous.
Dude, I had a vaguely embarrassing phase where me and my friend would go to coffee shops and do the open mic nights and play guitar. And one time we did a Mumford and Sons song.
Right. But you got to go through that.
You do, yeah, no, for sure. It's so earnest, and those times were great. Like it was like, and he's still my very close friend. It's like I'm really happy we like did that together. But it is just funny to think about now. Like Jesus Christ,
totally.
Dude, if a Gen Z TikToker got their hands on that footage, I would never survive it.
Well, that's what's so tough is like you could do things and you could do embarrassing things in earnest because, you know, it wasn't going to be filmed and millions of people weren't going to be like, look at this.
No, I know for sure. I do feel like I caught the tail end of that. I mean, I was like, I was in college when Twitter started. And I was tweeting insane, stupid shit, and nobody cared.
Yeah, of course.
I think now, Twitter's something different. But you know what I mean? Like it's like I didn't quite get to the point where like the things I was tweeting were cancelable because just nobody cared.
Right.
I was allowed to be stupid and anonymous.
Yeah,
and I do kind of appreciate that.
Yeah, that's what it's so funny when you're like, you know, athletes. You'll see it more so with them when like. Someone will just dig up an old tweet of theirs. So they were like 11.
Yeah.
And they're just like, they're saying what an 11-year-old says. And you're like, that wasn't Josh. Like, that's not
people,
Josh
people
Allen,
do that
man.
to Travis Kelce. And it's like, exactly. he's like basically mentally handicapped now. Right. Like, you're going to go back to him when it's 13 and be like.
You gave him a phone at 8 years old and an outlet to talk to anyone. What did you expect? I know that part to me, I think Gen Z is unfairly maligned in that way where it's like, yeah, man, you were a teenager too and you said a lot of dumb shit.
No, for sure.
It's just that like nobody heard you. Only your parents and friends.
I wonder if now though there's such a glut of just content that it kind of doesn't matter also. There's so much of it.
You don't even get noticed.
Yeah, so it kind of disappears anyway in the deluge.
Yeah. And other people are saying worse things.
Right.
It's hard to stand out.
Yeah.
If you really want to say horrific shit, there's so much. You really
that's true.
Gotta work at it.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to say about the Great Red Dragon and the Woman Clothed in Sun?
No, I just feel an intense need
to eat it. Yeah.
To eat this screen.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to the poem, Scott, please. This is, I guess, similar theme, I guess. God's Grandeur by Gerard Manley Hopkins. Okay. You can read this, I can read this, or we can listen to an AI voiceover lady read it. Okay, God's grandeur. The world is charged with the grandeur of God. It will flame out like shining from shook foil. It gathers to a greatness like the ooze of oil crushed. Why do men then now not wreck his rod? Generations have trod, and all is seared with trade, bleared, smeared with toil, and wears man's smudge and shares man's smell. The soil is bare now, nor can foot feel being shod. And for all this, nature's never spent. There lives the dearest freshness deep down things. And though the last lights off the black west went, oh, morning at the brown brink eastward springs. Because the Holy Ghost over the bent world broods with warm breast and with, bright wings.
Man.
What do you think of this poem?
Man, it's, sometimes I find it hard with poetry because you'll hear words you don't often hear.
Yes,
and then I just get hung up on those words.
Same. No, that happens a lot.
And then
and with poetry from this period of time too, it's like it's super unusual. What did you get hung up on?
I got shook foil already had.
Yeah,
me.
I don't know what that means exactly. Like shining from shook foil. I was thinking of like aluminum foil, but I'm like, there's no way.
Exactly.
No way it's that.
And then the problem is, then I'm on that thought, and now you're 3 lines further, and I'm like. Well, now I'm lost and panicking.
Yeah.
And then bleared comes up again, and I go, what's bleared?
Yeah.
And now I'm done. Because
the one I got hung up on was, why do men then now not wreck his rod?
Yeah.
I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's
I'm thinking sexual thoughts.
Of course. It's such complicated language.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you're trying to really have an emotional experience with the poem. But then when you hear that, you go, well, I can't pass that up. So that's going to happen. It's just, there's so much, I always find, not so much with art, because art is just like, in the background and you walk up to it and you go, I'm gonna think my things.
Yeah.
Poetry requires that you read through it.
Yeah.
So in the process of reading, there's so much panic.
Yeah.
I feel so much panic reading a poem. There's so much pressure and panic to have an emotional experience, but I'm also on the clock.
Yeah.
With art, I'm not on the clock with a painting.
What
so
do you mean on the clock?
Like you I got to figure this thing out in real time.
Sure. Yeah.
So, as you're going, I have to be like, what was that word? You got to forget about that word. Anthony. You didn't know that word. That's not a big deal. What's the next sentence? What are you taking from this sentence? You didn't take anything from that sentence. You must be an idiot. Why are you so stupid?
I'm sorry to make you feel that way. I didn't mean
No, it's fine. Yeah. But I always it's intense pressure with reading a poem and then to have an epiphany at the end of it.
Is there anything you like in this poem that like did jump out of like, oh, that's a cool line?
Yeah, the Black West got me. I thought that was a cool detail.
Oh yes, yeah. Though the last lights off the Black West went. Yeah, I do like that a lot.
The brown bring. I think the last couple lines felt very cinematic.
Yeah,
to
for
me.
sure.
And the rest of it, the words were so clunky, and that's not to say it's just of the time.
Yeah,
that's how people spoke.
Yeah,
in a very circuitous manner. But
the verbs always go in different places than they should in poems because it's like they're trying to get like a specific rhyme scheme going.
Exactly. And so to try to extract something from that becomes difficult. So the whole first paragraph I was just lost.
Yeah.
But the ending I really liked.
I think so. If I can try a general explanation, I think it's just like, well, the world is charged with the grandeur of God. That feels like a fairly like there
simple.
It is. This is what
totally.
And then the rest is kind of about how society and civilization and labor and men make the world a kind of dirty thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what's going on with like all is seared with trade, bleared, smeared with toil.
Mm-hmm.
It's like factories fucking blowing smoke in the air and just the churning of like work. But because even though all of that's happening, nature is still there, ready to express its full glory. Right. That seems to me the general kind of like trajectory of the poem, which I kind of think is cool.
I think it's cool. Yeah. No, I love the idea of poetry. I love being told about poetry.
Yeah.
I put too much pressure on myself and I implode when reading poetry. But I do love. Yeah. I'm a real sucker for flowery language.
And I also do really like the way the rhymes work in this poem, where it's like God, foil, oil, rod, trod, toil, soil, shod. Yeah. The way and then like the way that certain sentences will surprise you with where they end. Where it's it gathers to a greatness like the ooze of oil crushed.
Mm-hmm. And I love that.
That's very cool. There is like there's a movement to this poem that I actually really enjoy.
Well, it's powerful. It's like that palate cleanser is powerful because the rest of it is like it's very rhythmic, but crushed is very it kind of brings you back to reality. Yeah, which I think is cool.
And I think I do feel like. I mean, this is a very corny point to make, but rap is poetry.
No, it is.
And it is like, it uses all the same tools.
Totally.
That, and often the language is like actually incredibly hard to understand because it's full of like allusions to like gang stuff that I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck that means. I'll listen to Kendrick Lamar albums like over and over again. I'm like, I still don't know what that means.
Yeah, man. No, it's like the Da Vinci Code.
Yeah.
Like really, you have to. I watch lengthy YouTube videos.
Yes.
that Julia is yelling at me from our bedroom to go to bed.
Oh, that's so funny. Wait, that are like analyzing lyrics.
Yes.
That's so funny. Wait, any specific YouTubers that you like?
Oh man, I just watched a 4-hour one.
Nice.
On the Drake and Kendrick, and he broke it down in such a I forget the exact name of it, but man, was it awesome.
What did you learn from it that you didn't know already?
Just it's kind of like what you were saying, with certain references and like the depth of certain references. I can't think of any offhand, but just where it works on so many levels. Where it was like
I like the idea of
so tiered.
Like, and when he says a minor, that's a minor. It's just like the most obvious.
No, they were more like you were saying.
When he says you're a pedophile,
I'm like, what did he mean by that exactly? There were more ones where I think he uses so much he uses so much new slang and so much local slang that
definitely
it's you kind of need a guidebook a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I'm not a Pyru, so
sure.
I don't know what you're talking about. But I know that it's important.
Yeah.
And I know that
I think Drake's gonna be fine. I think in 2 years he'll come out with a new album. There's gonna be one song on it that's like a banger.
Yeah.
And he'll be fine.
I think he'll probably be, he'll probably he's got to go away, I would say, because then people can find him again, and people can be like, it's like when anyone does wrong, you just get out of the public eye for a couple of years. When you come back, people will be like, oh, we kind of missed you, and we're excited for you, and we kind of forgot all the other stuff.
Sure, yeah.
But I mean, right now, he's just...
No, I know, especially because Kendrick's going to do the Super Bowl, which is sick.
He's going to do Not Like Us at the Super Bowl.
That is so fucking funny.
All of America is going to call Drake a pedophile.
I know, that is crazy.
It really is crazy.
Yeah.
But,
what songs do you think he's going to do? Not Like Us. Do you think he'll do All Right? Probably.
Yeah, definitely. That's an anthem.
Humble, maybe.
Yeah, definitely Humble.
And then something from Good Kid, Mad City, but I don't know which one.
Yeah, I mean, Backseat Freestyle is probably a little intense for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it is.
I would say Swimming Pools.
Yeah, that's what a funny song though, because it's like this depressing song about getting crossfaded at a party. And,
Don't Kill My Vibe has got to be on there.
Yeah.
And then
what are they gonna say instead of bitch though at the Super Bowl?
He'll make a noise.
Yeah.
Kendrick's so good at noises. He'll make a cooler noise. And then I'm sure there'll be stuff off the new album.
Maybe like Trick, Don't Kill My Vibe or something.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then off the new. But yeah, I mean the new album's. I mean actually. Excuse me. I didn't hate it, but it's a little rough compared to.
Oh, Mr. Morale?
Yeah, Mr. Morale.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Mr. Morale. It's. I mean, they're all concept albums. I mean, that's what I love about him so much. Is that, people are just. He's making every album is like he's making a different movie. He's like Scorsese.
No, it's true. Yeah,
it's really crazy.
I think it's like. I mean, until the Drake stuff, I was kind of like I never like loved his. Every like few years he has this feature on a song that's like insane and everybody talks about it. Yes. I never connected to those because I was like, well, I like his albums. I like when he like, has this long story that you can get involved in. But the Drake stuff is really cool.
Oh yeah, the Drake. I mean, well, that was always the thing. Or like he's doing it. Like you guys are just making. You're like this song.
Right,
this guy is sitting down and making. I mean, that one song that's about like he meets God as a homeless person.
Right,
like it's like man.
Yeah.
He's not.
That song is a little corny, I have to say.
But the attempt. But the attempt at something like that, it's like he's not with you guys.
No, for sure.
He's doing a very different thing. I mean, there's a reason he has a Pulitzer Prize. And you wrote Hotline Bling. I just think it was just like what a wrong move to get into an arena with someone. It's like, man, if he points his aim in that direction, he's still that good. Now he's operating on your level. So he's still leagues better than you.
Sure.
So I just.
What's your favorite song on Mr. Morale?
I'm bad with like the names of the songs. It might be Silent Hill actually that I like a lot.
I don't remember Silent Hill too much.
I really like.
I like the one that's an argument between him.
That is great.
Yeah,
that is really great. But yeah, Mr. Morale. I just love that everyone is so different and they're so dense and they're so. He's always just going. He's going. Mr. Morale, I think especially he's in the throes of it.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it's so personal.
Yeah.
And it's not just like. It's nothing I've heard before in terms of like someone really investigating themselves and their family and how they got here and like
especially in rap that's like it's uncommon in rap, I think.
And it like I don't know, it helps. I think it's almost like helps as a writer, even comedy, to be like really confront and be open about like you being a bad person. Yeah. In a way that's like not proud of it, but in a way that's like, hey, maybe you have this going on too, and we're like a little bit more connected because I'm being open about this stuff.
I should give it another listen because I feel like I listened to it like 2 or 3 times when it first came out, and nothing quite grabbed me. And then I tried it again, and all the beats are great. That's the thing, and his talent as a rapper is, of course. Like, so he always sounds really good, but. Nothing quite. It didn't just like hypnotize me the way his other stuff did.
No, it's not nearly as catchy as To Pimp a Butterfly.
But I'm just remembering one of the songs where it's like there's a running thing where he's like, the first time I fucked a white bitch. The second, just like, whoa.
Oh, it's
damn, it's brutal. It's like
man.
uncomfortable.
Yes, I think that's what I like about it. Is that like he's not afraid to be uncomfortable with himself on that album. Whereas the other ones, it's uncomfortable, but it's related to the world at large.
Yeah,
but with this one, it's uncomfortable with like demons that he's wrestling with, and I just think it's like it's a pretty brave thing to do, and it's like a very honest way to write. Yeah, which is cool.
That's sick. Do you have anything else you want to say about God's Grandeur?
No, I mean, it's a killer name, man.
It is a great
Manley Hopkins.
Yes,
my God,
definitely. Yeah.
Wow. That's
great name for a poet. I think it's a great name for a poem.
Yeah, great name for a poem.
And I think my favorite, if I have to pick a favorite line, I do think all is seared with trade, bleared, smeared with toil. Oh, there's just the series of consonants and the way it kind of like lands home, I think is really cool. Yeah. Is there your favorite line? It sounds like is like near the end.
My favorite line, and though the last lights off the Black West went. Yeah. I just like really the string of alliteration there and the imagery that it evokes.
That is very cool.
Oh, morning at the brown brink, eastward springs. Yeah, I think that's beautiful.
I also like that world broods with warm breast.
Yeah,
and
that
with
is awesome.
Bright, I like bright wings.
I love when a poet adds a bit of performance within the poetry. I do.
Yeah, it's cool. Do you have any questions for me, Anthony?
No, man. I mean, I think you've said a lot. Not in a bad way. I'm not like, well, you talk my fucking ear off, man. Yeah. No, I don't think so. I think,
sweet.
Yeah, nice conversation.
Well, Anthony, pleasure having you.
Great time, man.
Is there anything you'd like to plug to my listeners?
Oh, yeah. I listen to my new podcast that I'm doing with Greg Stone and Allison Leiby. Called Welcome to Talktown.
Great.
And just, follow me on Instagram at comedian Anthony DeVito for more information on that.
Yes. Anthony's one of my favorite comics, so please do all that. Thanks, Anthony, thanks for being on the podcast, man.
Thank you, dude.
Hello, dear.